Hey there, everyone. Big Bear AI stock might be starting to do something a little bit different, and that might be a little bit special. Apple also has a super interesting chart that I want to share with you. Palantir continuing to march sideways, and SoFi might be tickling a little bit of resistance this morning, which could also offer up some interesting trade ideas for each one of these things in this video. I'm going to share those each with you. And then yesterday I got a chance to do a little bit of day trading. I'll talk a little bit about the technicals that I put out, read it about the market open, and then I'll show you how exactly they went as well. And also I am a huge fan of trading 0 DTE options whenever I get the chance to. And if you guys don't know what options are about, but you'd like to, I have a workshop coming up on Saturday at 2 p.m. So that's the September the 6th. So you guys can scroll through this. There's a link in the description for it. You can check out the workshop, 2 p.m. And there are a limited number of seats available. Make sure that you take advantage of this before they go away. And also code word money, MONEY, is what you should use to take advantage of this offer. It's 20% off when you sign up. Huge amounts of value to come out of it. With the options workshop, it can pay back in dividends with what you learn in there, and if you're able to successfully apply it to the markets. So it's for the absolute beginner for options. So to take you from what our options all about, how can they really amplify the alpha in your portfolio? What risks do you need to be aware of? What are calls? What are puts? All that kind of stuff all wrapped up into about a 90-minute session. Now, a lot of that 90 minutes is question and answer time that you can also go in there and you can ask the nuanced things that you have to ask. Do I have this right? What about this situation? How does it apply to this stock, ETF? Whatever, I'm there to answer it all for you and more. If you're looking for something more advanced than just a beginner workshop, the next workshop that comes out will be that next level where we start talking about going short with options, so selling to open for calls and puts. So if you guys already know about buying calls and puts to open up your positions and you're looking for more, stay tuned. That is coming up next, and I can't wait to announce that one as well. Again, links in the description, code word money. Guys, let's jump into the charts on this thing. So here's the cues, and I gotta say, from an intraday or from a daily perspective, we'll say here we have pre-market up above the 5 and the 13, and that's good. That does leave us room up to about 574 to 75, up about 578. Now, tomorrow is a big day with non-farm payrolls and unemployment. So maybe we watch this push up today throughout the day, but then sell off towards the end in order to capitalize on any gains and then maybe see some de-risking. So maybe a nice little inverted V shape, if you will. So that chevron or that little carrot type shape might be what we'd expect, sort of like what you see right here on your chart. Now, from an intraday perspective, because I did mention day trading, I'll drop down to the 15-minute chart on this. And this looks wild and crazy, but just trust me for a moment to take care of you and show you a little bit more about what I'm talking about. So we're going to zoom in just to today, and let's actually drop it down to 5 minutes to get a little bit more nuance with those candles. There we go. So I put this out yesterday over at the Discord at 9:30, so that would take us all the way back here to the market open. So this first candle, and you can see the ride that it took. You can see how well we come down to this 38.2 Fibonacci retracement level with those low wicks. You could treat that as support, and you could ride that back up. Now, mind you, for me, it's not just about the supports and resistances. I also watch momentum. I also watch VWAP as well. And, you know, it allows me to be fairly successful with what I do. And I'm going to have some account details coming out for you very soon with that. These last 2 days, awfully nice, and I expect it to continue to stay pretty nice, and I also look forward to that time. So I also talked about the big fat resistance over in the Discord that we would see around 571. Said expect at least an initial rejection. We got it. March sideways. Went a little bit volatile as we started getting this broadening pattern out of this, but once we hit the double top, we started selling off of that thing. Now, there was a favorite moment in here. Not that I'm able to capitalize on all of them, but I'll show you this. Once again, on the minute chart. There we go. And let's also bring up the VWAP on this, and we'll also bring up the EMAs, because as we got into that moment where we started hitting that 571 and selling off, there we go. And then after the double peak, it's right here. There we go. This would be the exact sort of thing that I would be looking for. So you get double top, you start selling off of that. But at that point in time, we're still up above VWAP. Let me take down the day trading technical so you can see a little bit more. So up here is considered to be a bullish thing. Down here below the blue line is considered to be bearish. Well, we just hit a double top on this, which can be a bearish sign. We broke down below VWAP, which switches it over to a bearish sentiment. We retested it from the bottom. So across just those few things, that could be a sign that we could potentially sell off further, and that's exactly what we did. If we bring the EMAs into it as well, what else do you have besides that? Let's take down VWAP for a moment. There we go. We have the 5 down below the 13. How up here, I wasn't too favorable, although you could ride it down off the double top, but you doesn't have as much confluence there. And also the RSI was also up above 50. That's down here on the bottom of the chart. So you still have bullish momentum. You were still up above the 50, the 200, and it's just the near term, the 5 and the 13, prone to false signals. It did sell off down below that. So here where we actually have that price action move down below the 50, up here's where we retested that VWAP, and we're also retesting the 50. The very next candle over is where we opened up. We confirmed below it. For me, that's where that beautiful entry comes in, right around 130, 131. You guys can see the sort of sell that follows after that we moved down, let me see, down to 567, whereas before we were up at about 569. That $2 move, by the way, if you do know about options and if you use 0 DTE options, in a world where every penny change can be fairly significant, that you start to see a dollar change can be $100. In that world of options, it is a very leveraged way of looking at things. Now, mind you, it also amplifies your risks, but when you set yourself up for probability and profitability, it can really help you out with that as well in terms of being a profitable trader, even if you don't nail it all the time. So this week so far, I'm just starting out that more of that day trading series that I'm building for you. I'm going to have that number coming out for you. Right now it's sitting at 80%. We'll see if I can stay around 80% success rate. And I look forward to sharing those results. Some of those are already shared over to the Discord. The link is down in the description, code word doctor when you sign up. So guys, we're going to switch from the Qs into Big Bear AI. So let's jump out to the daily chart for a moment and take down the technicals on this. There we go. And you guys can see this wild big old candles that we have down to this uncertain kind of trailing off candle formation that you have. And you can't see a lot of detail from the daily chart. But if we drop down to the 2-hour chart, and I'll put the technicals back up here for you, you can actually see a little bit more of that descending wedge structure. And now, mind you, we didn't necessarily break out of this on volume, but this subdued volume is actually a clue in and of itself, along with the fact that we stopped that descending movement and we started to kind of march sideways. There we have that lowest low recently and that highest high recently. We're sort of trading in the middle of that now. Some of that could go with the fact that yesterday was kind of a bit of a sideways day in the overall market as well. And we're also, for Big Bear AI specifically, we happen to be down near this support level, which is a pretty darn critical support level. You can go back to earnings and you can see the rocket ship ride that we took as soon as we got down to that support area. And it's no wonder that we saw a little bit more evidence of buying pressure here, as it's looking at the past to say, hey, there's buyers here around this level. So we got a little bit of buying that happened during that level. We could consolidate across this, and now this bottom trend line that was acting as support is still acting as support for us. And this top trend line that was resistance has now switched, going back to, once again, Tuesday. It still happens to be that support for us. So we'll watch and see. Not only do we have trend line support, but we also have some historic support as well. And we also have Fibonacci extension and retracement support, and probably some previous pivots as well, if I were to put up those other technicals. But it starts to get really noisy really fast. So you guys can see the different things. If you look here on this part of the screen, it starts to show you a little bit more of what builds it up. There's a lot of solid support that if we do happen to lose that, the next support area happens to be around 426 to about 446, which I think is really where things could get very, very exciting. So if this consolidation isn't a real thing, if it turns out to be like, we thought we would move sideways, but actually we're going to sell down a bit more. If that happens to be the case, those low fours or even dipping slightly below 4, I think starts to get really exciting for Big Bear AI and really pushes down that coiled spring, if you will, until that next news catalyst event that I think could be on the horizon. That there's a large possibility that we get that news, that we start to get some of that big, beautiful bill funding thrown the way of Big Bear AI. We're just going to have to watch and see it. Hopefully we also get news of broadening out in their partnerships as well, so we don't see the same concentration risk bite them in the butt like it did during this last earnings when the Army was going through some efficiencies, and so they didn't get some of that funding that they expected. Big Bear AI did not receive some of that funding that they expected during the previous quarter. So we want this quarter or the next one to be that massive movement, and I think that between now and the end of year that we could have that movement coming in. We got to watch for it. Most likely when it does hit, it's going to be a huge volume day and lots of price movement to the upside, and it's probably going to last several days after that. So even if you miss the first move, depending on what it is, it could be something that moves us up significantly higher over the next several days that follow. But we're going to have to watch and see what that news is, if it does hit, when it does hit, and then give further detail at that time. Before then, it's just speculation. So Apple, by the way, The hourly chart is super interesting because we can see the bulls pushing up on the bottom of this. We can see the bears holding that line that happens to be just south of 240. Today could be that day if the market bias is with us that we push up to that 243.66 number that we have up here. If we can get above this 786, that happens to be at 240.11. We couldn't touch it before, but that's one heck of an ascending triangle pattern that we have where we're getting that pressure. Hopefully we can push through the top. The market bias is probably going to have to be at its back in order to make that happen. Palantir still stuck in this consolidation, still kind of trading sideways. There's a massive move coming for Palantir sometime soon. Watch for which way we break the consolidation. Watch for volume conviction to go along with it. That's going to tell us a lot more about the next direction that it goes. September, remember, come on, fingers crossed, that's what we get. September slump, well then watch for that massive support to the downside on Palantir that I announced before. And let me put up some of the technicals on here so you can see them. There's a lot of lines in here that when we sold it back down here before, I was like, this is significant bounce zone. Watch for this territory. And we absolutely got it when we ripped all the way down to 142 and then returned after that up to 164. So that $22 move back to the north on that before coming back and testing its 50 EMA on this 4-hour chart that we're looking at here. Once again, returning to that range. Again, watch and see the direction, especially if we can clear this line at 166. That really opens us up to 185. If we fall down below 141-ish, we have room all the way down to 128 on this with not a lot of structure in between, just a few minor pivots that also happen to be along the way. SoFi in the pre-market hours, I talked about this trading range that it was developing. Well, it's down below that now, and it's currently hitting its head on it at that 24.65 number that I have listed on here for you. If this is one that gets rejected here, it could potentially sell, once again, with not a lot of structure over here, just some minor pivots along the way. It wouldn't necessarily be a straight shot down to 23, but that could be something that would open up some really interesting short-term opportunities for SoFi from a trading perspective. And all these are all from a trading perspective, at least in this video as I talk about them. So guys, the day trading stuff with the 0 DTEs, I do find that it's highly engaging, highly interesting, but it's also, it's wild. It is a wild, wild world where you really need to know a lot about options, how to protect your capital, how to take advantage of the technicals that are on the screen, the workshops that are available. Now, mind you, I run the options workshop. Stockmo has a technical workshop with the candle framework that you can go and check out that relies on the things that I cover here in this video with those technicals. Like I said, I have the options. Then Crypto Will has the crypto workshops. You can get access to all those using the link in the description. There's even a bundle deal that goes along with it where it's all 3 of those workshops wrapped into one, each one about 90 minutes in length, each one having a Q&A. Code word money still does save you that, I believe it's 20% on that one. You can go and you can check that out. Just type in code word money. You'll get a big fat discount on that bundle. Code word money for just my individual workshop. If you're only interested in the options, that is September the 6th. The other 2 workshops are that weekend. I believe that Will's is, I think, is also September the 6th. And Stockmo's is on September the 7th. I believe it's on Sunday this coming week. And you can check all that out using the link down in the description. If you want to join us over at the Discord, see the technicals as they're released. I'm one of the panel experts over there. There's a whole team of us over there to support you in your journey towards financial freedom and building alpha in your portfolio. And guys, I really do enjoy coming on here and talking to all of you about this, but honestly, it's me and it's a couple cameras and it's a screen. When we do that workshop, it's live. It's face-to-face through Zoom where we can talk to each other, we can interact with each other, and it really does make for a really nice atmosphere where it's not just like, but what about this, but what about that, and you have questions through YouTube that never get answered and you're searching all the time, whereas I can answer directly in those workshops. And then also there's a forum community that goes along with it. You get access for 60 days when you sign up for those workshops. And guys, it is a really, really awesome deal. You don't have to take my word for it. Other people have also taken those workshops and they really do enjoy it. I'm going to let you guys go. Good luck today. Watch out for non-farm payrolls and the unemployment rate tomorrow. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning. We'll see you next video.